for Strategies 2.0, one of the learning community facilitators here in the Valley region. And with me today is Jen Rangel, who is my co-conspirator, maybe is a better word, but also co-facilitator. And Jen and I this has been our second year working with Strategies and facilitating learning community events in the Valley. So we are your facilitators this morning. And where would we be without our beloved technology divas? We've got Carrie and Shane with us this morning. If you'll notice, they're adorned in boas, as any good diva should be. So they're always bringing a little color, and we have a lot of appreciation for them and their support of the work that we do, so that we can all be connected, because without the technology divas, none of this would be possible. We all know that for sure. Thank you, divas. And so I am actually going to invite Carrie to step in and share a little with you. Some of you may be familiar with GoTo. I know some of you have been to some strategies trainings, and some of you, it might be new. So I'm going to invite Carrie to share some tips about navigating GoToMeeting to make your experience good.
Would love to. So Jen, go ahead and start clicking. So you should all have kind of a orangey red arrow, and if you click that back and forth, that will hide that little toolbar. If that is bothering you, you have control over that. So click again. You have joined us today either by telephone, which I'm on my telephone because for some reason it's a better sound than if I use my computer speakers. But you can join us either way. If you click on telephone, and Shane's going to laugh at me right now, it will give you the phone number to call in. It will give you an access code, and it will give you a PIN number. So it's really important to do all of that. Otherwise, if you wanted to have us unmute you, we would not be able to do that. So just make sure you do all of those things if you're joining us by telephone. Next up would be the chat box. So you can all see right there you have a chat box. A lot of communication has already been going on this morning in the chat box. We really appreciate that. There will be some chat box questions, I believe, in the process of today's presentation. So you will be invited to put your responses in the chat box. Any questions that you may have, comments, only nice comments today, will be accepted. So go ahead and use that chat box and then push send. So that's a really good way to communicate. What else do we got? You can also raise your hand. This is kind of a tricky function because a lot of times the hand will go up and we will want to call on you and unmute you, and then you will tell us, oops, that was an accident. So I don't know. I don't quite know what's happening there. But if you wanted to raise your hand and ask a question live, you can do that, and we can unmute you, and then you can ask the question over the live GoTo. So that is an option for you. And then that's the little microphone icon. Click it one more time because, like Shane said earlier, we have you all muted. So you don't need to worry about any of the background noise that may be going on in your household today. And I think that might be, Shane, did you push record on this? Yay. So this is being recorded for you, and you will receive the link following the learning community. You can go to our Strategies 2.0 YouTube channel to access learning communities, all of our webinars that have been done. We have a series of Vehicles for Change webinars that were done last year. So there's a lot of things going on our Strategies YouTube channel. So we want you to know about that.
Mhm.
And I think, is that all you need me for?
Unless you want to keep going.
I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. It's always really helpful to know how to manage the tools on GoTo, so appreciate that. For those of you who might be new to strategies, and just as a reminder, for those of you who have joined us and have taken strategies trainings, and I know a lot of you have out there, but the strategies mission you see on the screen is really the purpose is to be a catalyst for the professional skills, organizational structure, and community relationships that are necessary to mitigate risk factors for child abuse and neglect, and of course, to promote child, family, and community well-being. So strategies is comprised of 3 fantastic organizations, one being the CAP Center, or the Child Abuse Prevention Center in Sacramento, the Children's Bureau in Orange County, and our partners and friends at San Diego State University, the Social Policy Institute. So lots of great things that you can do. As Carrie mentioned, if you go to strategiesca.org, which is the website, you can register for free trainings that are online. Of course, everything is virtual now, so trainings are online. There are webinars that you can access. There are other learning community convenings that you can access. So it doesn't matter if you're living in the Valley, but you want to jump on a learning community for Southern California, you can certainly do that. So if you go to the website, it's very easy to register. And obviously you all have done that because you're with us today. And then also on the website, you'll find a resources page. And we'll towards the end talk a little bit more about this, but you can find everything that Strategies has authored, including some of the knowledge to action briefs that we've been using, the toolkit that we'll be talking about today, and some other links that you'll find really helpful in the work that you're doing. And then, as Carrie said, the Strategies YouTube channel is loaded with fantastic stuff. So whether it's trainings, whether it's past webinars or learning communities, if this is the first time you're joining us for the Valley, you can go back and look at our first 3 learning community events and kind of help you make a connection to the theme that we have been supporting all year. So encourage you to get on the YouTube channel. I know that a lot of our staff here at Center for Human Services have been using that as a great training opportunity right now, especially while we are, a lot of us are working remotely, and it's just a good opportunity to take that time and invest in some learning for you. All right. We want to definitely offer some appreciation to our funder, which is the Office of Child Abuse Prevention with the State Department of Social Services, otherwise known as OCAP. So you see there, thank you, OCAP. And just a little bit about today. We did start a little bit later, just in anticipating some of the challenges of getting connected and being online, but I don't believe that we're going to take the full time we have allotted today, so we'll just see how that evolves. But we will definitely end on time, if not early. We really hope that you will participate in the polls. We have some polls scattered throughout the presentation today. And then we also have some chat questions. And normally we are in a room wherever we are and having the networking and the conversations that we have. So we really hope that you will use the chat box to share your thoughts with us. And we're very informal here, just really open and curious to hear your perspective and your thoughts. We hope that you will share those with us. And then, you know, please feel free to ask questions. You can type those into the chat box. I believe that Shane is going to be managing the chat box, although she and Carrie might both be looking at that. So they'll be looking out for any questions. And then finally, be sure to practice self-care. If you need to walk away, step away, then please do whatever you need to do. Take care of yourself and to be present. Okay. So a little bit about learning communities. You've heard us spend some time distinguishing a training versus a learning community. And although this may feel a little more like a training today, just because of the format and the structure a little bit, learning communities are really about promoting shared learning and focus together. Learning communities, we've really enjoyed bringing all kinds of partners together to really rally around, you know, a particular interest. So, you know, at all of our events, we'll have folks from education, we'll have nonprofits, we'll have family resource centers, government employees, community members, parents. You know, when you have cross-sector folks in the room, it's really a great time to learn together. And so that really has been our goal. And we hope that the outcome is that we end up creating greater capacity to look and to solve the problems that are before all of our communities. So that's a little bit about the learning community. I like this slide. One of our partners in the Sierra Learning Community, Barb, came up with this, and it's just kind of an interesting representation of learning communities and how you all have your own learning communities apart from being with us today. You're connected to your coworkers, partners in the community, you know, other residents, folks and families that you spend time with, elected officials. So we can think about learning communities in a lot of ways and consider that in the work that we do. Okay, so again, just in case you haven't joined us and maybe you're not from the Valley region, but this year we have really been focused on digging a little deeper into resiliency and thinking about that through the lens of the 5 protective factors. And we started the year, we actually took feedback from all of our Valley partners when we finished last year to help us with our direction this year. And we really saw like a theme of continued resiliency building and focus from that. And so in September, we had a fantastic panel of men, of fathers who also work with fathers, and our focus was how to build resiliency in dads and what kind of strategies we can put in place to support the fathers that we're working with. And so that was our first learning community. Our second learning community was in December, and our focus was really building resilience of children and parents who've been impacted by trauma. And we had part 2 with Jen Johnson, who we all came to know and love. And Jen was with us in the year before in May, and we had such a great response to her and just her incredible knowledge and experience in terms of working with families in trauma. So if you missed either of those, you can go back and watch those, and I would encourage it. But she left us with some great practices that we can use to build resiliency in the folks that we're working with, children and families. Then in February, we spent some time taking a look at what resilient parents look like. We invited Samuel Duarte from the Little House in the Park, FRC in Guadalupe, and spent some time listening to him talk about how they provide leadership development and engagement with their parents, and all the fantastic work their parents are doing on behalf of the community. So we really dug into parental resiliency there. And then here we are today. Some of the feedback that we had was there was a real interest in how to develop strong partnerships, how to develop networks to help support family strengthening work. And so that's why we're here today. And we will dig into that a little bit deeper. So just a little bit about the day. It's always good to have some idea where you're going. I love this photo because I love maps, and this person is holding a map. So our map is very simple for the morning. We're in the midst of our welcome. We'll be going into our presentation shortly, and we'll have some time to reflect, and we'll wrap up and close at the end. And I do want to say, if you were registered, well, you were registered for this, you should have gotten an email from Shane with an attached self-leadership assessment. So we will be talking about that later in the presentation. So great if you filled it out, that's awesome. If you haven't, don't panic. We're going to go over it, and you can perhaps complete it, and as we're going along, that's no problem. And if you have access to your email, you can certainly pull that up. We'll be loading materials and making sure you have access to those after the presentation is concluded.
Lori, the assessment is also currently in the materials tab. So if they pop out their taskbar, it's already loaded in there. So if they didn't get an email, they can pop it out now. Yeah.
Awesome. I didn't see that, so that's great. Thank you, Shane, for doing that. Wonderful. Okay, so I am gonna turn it over to Jen. So Jen, you are up.
So welcome, everyone. We're going to get started with our first poll. We really want to know where you're from, what county you're from. So what Valley County are you from? San Joaquin or Stanislaus, Merced or Madera, Fresno or Kings, Tulare or Kern, or none of the above, but I'm stoked to be here. So go ahead and complete that poll for us, please.
You should be able to just click on the screen, and sometimes there's a problem getting into the poll. If you're having a problem, just go ahead and put in the chat box where you are from. And especially the none of the above people, we want to know where you're from.
Yeah, we do, for sure.
We know where you're from, Monica. We've been to your house. I mean, your workhouse. All right, we've got about 66% of folks have voted. Give them another 30 seconds or so. We've got folks from all over. That's cool.
Oh,
All right, take about 15 more seconds. And we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Is it showing the results?
Gotta click on share.
Share. Thank you.
Uh.
So we've got 19% from San Joaquin or Stanislaus County. Merced or Madera is about 11, Fresno or Kings 15%, Tulare or Kern 19%, and none of the above 37%.
wow.
So we have folks, Lauren's from Trinity County. Thank you, Lauren. We have Renee from Yuba City and Sutter County. Anna from Santa Barbara County. Debbie from San Diego County. Dominique from Contra Costa. Araceli's from LA County. Guadalupe's from Sonoma. Linda's from LA County in the Valley, the original Valley girl. Linda from the San Fernando Valley, not the Central Valley. That's where Judy's from too. Judy's a Valley girl from way back. Okay, there you go.
All right, thank you.
And click hide, Jane. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
So now for poll question number 2, select the type of organization you work for. It's an FRC, FRC network, First 5 or Child Abuse Prevention Council, other community-based nonprofit, a county agency or school district, or a statewide agency.
I think I have to take issue with the whole Valley Girl situation. We Central Valleyans really feel like we're the original OG Valley Girls.
True. That's true.
We've been told that sometimes if you minimize your screen, then you can get into the poll. Just one of the polling hacks that are out there.
If you minimize your screen.
Oh, good to know.
Oh, Monica says that worked. Good.
Oh, yay. Thanks for that, Carrie.
Life hacks from Carrie Collins.
She could probably do a whole series.
Right, again, we have about almost 70% have voted. So we'll give you another 10 seconds. And we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go. So almost half from a CBO, it's community-based nonprofit, 27% from a county agency or school district, 12% from First 5 or a CAPC, and then 8% each of an FRC or FRC network or a statewide agency. Great.
Thank you. Awesome.
And next we have select the title that best fits your current role.
Thanks, Consuelo. Staff working with families. Lots of frontline workers here.
Awesome.
Yeah. Oopsie. Okay, so let's see. Give another 15 seconds. Okay, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so 67% of us are staff working directly with families, 19% organizational leaders, and 15% are capacity builders. And we don't have any volunteers or constituents on the call today.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right, so now that we've gotten to see who's here with us this morning, we wanted to start with a reflection question for all of us. And you can just type your answer in the chat box. What signs of resilience have you seen in your community?
Or if you'd like to be unmuted and you'd like to speak out loud, we could do that too.
Absolutely. Anybody is welcome to do that. And we're thinking about resilience, especially in the current times that we're in. It seemed like a really interesting thing for us to reflect on together. So Shane, would they raise a hand if they want to be unmuted to share?
Yeah. I don't see any hands yet.
Anthony, I know you're out there. You can raise a hand.
I was going to say, Lori, I'll start us off and just say, I have seen so much creativity out there. I've seen so many programs who have just, turned on a dime and just changed it up and, put everything online, or just really, just were so creative in the way that they're offering program and did that so quickly. For Strategies 2.0, we certainly did that as well. It took us kind of a week or two to get our feet back under us when all this happened. But ever since then, we've just been full force, doing everything remotely. And honestly, we've probably been just as busy, if not busier, than we were before, without having to drive everywhere. So I think that's very true for all the programs that I've seen around the state. So this just creativity.
Awesome. That's a great reflection. I see several coming in here.
Did you want me to read those for you?
Yeah, would you?
Okay,
thank you.
Great, sure. So let's see, we have Anna who says families going on walks. Good, getting themselves out of the house. That's a good thing. And to get some healthy exercise. Lauren says a lot more support in the community. Good. Jennifer Wood-Slayton, who's from Kern County, says agencies coming together to help families get what they need. Teachers going above and beyond to help their students learn and get families connected to services. Yes, I absolutely back that up as well. Teachers are just amazing. Judy Sherman says organizations using social media. Yeah, social media, Zoom has zoomed to greatness right now, right? With all of us using Zoom. So using social media. Linda says the flexibility of parents doing the classwork and teaching their children. Yes, absolutely. Parents triple duty at this point, either, working at home and trying to keep the house together and keep kids educated all at the same time. Guadalupe wants to know, are we talking about business or families?
It could be either.
Okay. Dominique says virtual graduations and other programs that recognize children and encourage support from parents. Yep. Norma says, I've seen parents getting creative with their children during our virtual play groups and sharing ideas. Yeah, so virtual play groups, I love it. Yeah. Araceli says, I see people are more united, and have more support for one another. And teachers have bonded closer with parents with weekly calls. Anthony says families helping families and senior neighbors who can't always get to resources. So folks helping their neighbors, especially their senior neighbors. Renee says family support within community organization in times of threat of the fire. The dam threat or the dam threat. Fires and now COVIDs. Yes. So I live in Ventura County, and boy, have we been hit the last 3 or 4 years with issue after issue. So yes, people are certainly primed for this, aren't they? Araceli says we're more bonded. Renee says more community. Judy says using Facebook for classes and outreach. Yeah. And one more, Guadalupe says, do you see more families spending time with their family and doing activities like working out or crafting?
Nice.
Thank you all for participating. I am going to turn it over to Lori to get us started.
Thank you, Jen. I just thank you all so much for sharing what you've seen in your communities and the examples of resiliency that stood out to you. I think that first of all, keep up the chat because we love that, especially since we're not like together and can't be in front of each other having the conversation. And because we have people from all over the state, it's really fantastic to hear it. And I think that we find when we reflect on ways that we've been resilient, there's so much that comes to us, and you all evidenced that this morning in terms of what you shared. So it's good to hear what you're seeing and experiencing in your community. And why we're here today, because we want more of that happening in the community, right? We want to support community resilience however we can. And so that is our focus for the day. And you'll see on the screen here a shot of the 3rd volume of the Building Community Resiliency Toolkit. So that's going to be our focus for the day. The toolkit does have much more to it, and we will talk a little bit about that, but we're going to focus on part 3 and building those cross-sector partnerships. Connecting and collaborating, the 2 C's. There's probably another C in there somewhere, but those are the C's for the day. So just a little bit about the toolkit. The Building Community Toolkit, and particularly this volume, is going to really give us an in-depth look at the importance of cross-sector partners, who they are, why you need them, why that's important. And then it's a fantastic guide for organizations to really engage, expand, and strengthen the cross-sector partnerships that they do have. Or if there's a group that's contemplating creating a partnership, there are going to be some tools in here I think that you all find really helpful in support of what you want to do. Okay. So just a little bit about the series. This was created by Strategies this year, and there are, you'll see we refer to it as the BCR Toolkit series, but it's Building Community Resilience is the title. it's a process of assessment, readiness, implementation, and sustainability. And this was really designed as a primary prevention resource for partnerships, countywide prevention partnerships. There was some foundational work done with the pair of ACEs, or the Adverse Child Experience Study, that sort of is the foundation that has supported this work. And the idea is to support family strengthening CAPC organizations, anybody who is out there really doing work on behalf of strengthening, supporting children and families in the community. The toolkit, as I said, Jen will walk you through a little bit more of the detail shortly, but it was based on a prior framework for addressing adverse childhood and community experiences, the Building Community Resiliency Model by Wendy Ellis and William Dietz in 2017. And so this is an adaptation of their work and is really meant to guide a series of processes in volume 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so although volume 1, you'll see on your screen, starts with creating a shared understanding among about resilience among partners, looking at ACEs, looking at what's happening in the community. Volume 2 addresses partners' readiness to work together today. Volume 3 will talk about cross-sector partnerships, and then volume 4 addresses the community engagement piece and capacity building. So that's just a little bit about the toolkit itself. And I am going to turn it back over to Jen, and she is going to walk you through some specifics just to give you a taste of what is in the toolkit. Here you go. Take it away, Jen.
Go over the part 1, 2, and 4, since we're going to talk later about part 3. Again, these can all be downloaded from the Strategies website. So we're just giving you a brief intro of what you can find there. So in the first one, it's called Working Together to Build Community Resilience. This first one really aims to provide knowledge to family and community strengthening organizations who have experienced trauma. It supports the cultivation of shared community narratives along with steps needed to build resilience. And it also helps create the foundation to building shared understanding, common language, discussion of trauma, resilience, and ACEs. So the first one really is provides a description of the core concepts of the BCR model, and it also has tools available for your use. The second one is system and provider abilities to respond and build supports. This really describes the organization's capacity needed for a shared approach to building community resilience. The overview and goals of building, you'll see there's a tool in there for building a logic model to help you focus the work. Also assessing their level of readiness to implement BCR efforts. And it also identifies steps needed to increase readiness. The last volume in our series is based on community, so sustaining community resilience to create lasting change. In this toolkit, you'll find it offers a pathway towards sustaining community resilience and establishing mechanisms to provide for the community resilience efforts. So all 4 of these really have 3 to 4 tools inside of them. So there's an explanation, an intro, really a guide for you to follow, as well as tools for you to work through with your partnership. So now I'm going to turn it back over to Lori to get us started with volume 3.
Okay. Are you excited? yes, I can feel your excitement out there all over the state. Okay, so here we go, volume 3. As just again, because we are just giving you an introduction, and because our focus based on the interest of our folks in the Valley community was about building healthy partnerships and networks, we decided to focus on volume 3. Normally, it probably feels a little out of order because, you know, in the context, you would, if you're engaged in a partnership or you're part of a network or you're part of a collaborative, ideally, you know, you would start with 1, you'd go to 2, 3, and 4 and see it through. But we thought it would still be really helpful to take a look at 3 because there's some really fantastic reflections in here on the work and what's necessary. And as Jen said, there's some tools in here that we think would be really helpful for our purpose and our focus in the Valley Learning community. Okay, so naturally, I want to start with a question for you all. So I'm curious about your thoughts. My assumption is that in the work that you're doing, you all have been part of a committee, a partnership, a collaborative, a network, whatever it is. I want you to spend just a few moments thinking about that and tell us what you feel or what you think contributes the most to successful partnerships. So when all cylinders are firing and things are awesome and working well, what is it that makes that happen? So if you want to be brave and talk to us, which we would love, or you want to put it in the chat box, let's take some time to do that now. And then our technology divas will be checking out your responses and sharing them with us. So what contributes to successful partnerships?
Linda has her hand raised. Linda, would you like to be unmuted?
To the
Linda, you are unmuted
polling.
if you'd like to speak.
I can't get into the polling because I did that maximizing. How do I unmaximize it? I was into it earlier, now I can't do the polling.
We need Carrie and her hacks.
Yeah.
How do I unhack?
You need to minimize your screen, not maximize your screen. So
okay, where I don't see that knob, that X.
Here, I will chat with you personally in the chat box, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie and Linda, for asking for assistance.
Yeah. All right, so we have some chat box comments. Let's see. So good communication, respect, and trust are key to partnership. Jolivet says same amount of input on both sides of the partnership. So an equal effort. Consuelo says bilateral collaboration. Ooh, tell us more about bilateral collaboration. What does that mean? Yeah. Monica says trust and not competition with one another. Norma says being open to sharing one's ideas and also listening to others' ideas as well. So being open, yeah. Nicole says cultural awareness and inclusive. Oh my gosh, I can't say that word. Inclusivity. Inclusivity. Yes, thank you. Yes, good. Tamara says again, mutual respect and effort on each side. Sandra says empathy. That is a big concept for us right now, I think. Dominique says again, cultural awareness, you know, backing up the other comment about cultural awareness. Yeah, very important.
Excellent.
And Bertha says being open-minded and building true and meaningful relationships.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing what you think. I heard lots of themes in there. We heard respect and trust. Sandra, I appreciate you shouting out empathy. That's probably not one that we all necessarily walk into a partnership thinking about, but we heard, you know, having good communication, you know, fairness, transparency, all those things are great. So you guys, maybe some of you could be probably leading the conversation, because I think you have some great insight to where we're going to go next. Thank you, Jen. So when you go into the toolkit, you'll see a conversation that is highlighting some of the very things that we just talked about and that you've experienced. I'm really glad to hear that people have had some positive experiences with successful partnerships. So that is great. But in the work to develop the toolkit, there were some key elements that really rose to the surface that help us define when and how partnerships are successful. And so there are several, and you'll find these in the toolkit, but the very first one listed is trust. And I saw several people comment about how important trust is. And trust is, you know, probably the key ingredient when you are forming partnerships. And it doesn't always immediately happen. It is something that is a process that occurs over time. And in the toolkit, they talk about trust being demonstrated by sharing responsibilities, sharing information, sharing, you know, sharing part of the work and the process. So it's, you know, where everyone feels that they have a part and everyone is valued in the same way, and everyone has a say. So the more that you can cultivate those conditions, the greater trust will grow. And it, you know, it's definitely something that needs continual work and support to make sure that everyone feels that. So trust. Shared values is another key element. Shared values is, you know, perhaps the second most important factor. And you probably have found when you've been in partnerships or you've been a part of a collaborative, it really stands out when people are there for the same reasons. I think about when we had a family resource center network here in the Valley, and before we actually formalized and got together, there were conversations about what families particularly in the northern San Joaquin Valley, were experiencing. And so what brought us together was the shared value that we wanted positive outcomes for our families. And we also recognized that, you know, our families were struggling with resources, where perhaps in some areas they were resource rich. In the Valley, we weren't. So our shared value was positive outcomes for our families. And so having that sense of shared values, spending some time communicating, and really, you know, learning and discussing together to see what those are, can really connect and make a partnership very successful, as long as everyone is there for the same reason. Another key element is joint resource development. So this is really involves working out of silos. So it is not me thinking about my agency, just my work, just my needs, but as, you know, what can we do for the whole partnership? How can we work together, whether it's obtaining fiscal or financial resources, whether it is, you know, social capital that is out there that another partner has, whatever it is, it's working together to provide resources versus working separately. And I think that's been one of the great things about being part of a successful partnership is there's just a natural inclination to want to do that together. I'll use the example of the FRC network that I just mentioned. When we started, we had no money. We had no resources, particularly financially, but what we did have was what we knew. And I think one of the greatest things we did was share the resources that we had together. So whether our agency provided training on behalf of the whole network, or they did that for us, or they had a tool that we could use that was life-changing in the work that we did with our families, we shared that. And so having the capacity to work together and share resources really helps make for successful partnership. Another key element is having integrated learning systems. So investing, creating a culture of learning for one, and inquiry in the work that you're doing together. So one person does not hold all the knowledge, or one agency does not hold all the knowledge. Successful partnerships really invest in their time together to learn and reflect on what's happening, and to inquire and to be curious, and to really make that a part of the work that they're doing together. Another key element is system structure and accountability. So having some of those formal systems in place to support the work that is happening, whether that's agreements or having an understanding of how we're going to work together. Are we going to have membership agreements and commitments? What are those? What are we working together toward? What are the outcomes that we're interested in? What data are we going to be looking at together? All those things serve to support the structure of the partnership. And then finally, the last element that you see there is leadership. And we will spend a little more time talking about that. That was the basis of the assessment that you hopefully took. But having leadership is really key. If you don't have the right leaders in place that are guiding the partnership, then things can go awry very quickly. So leaders can look all different kinds of ways. Leaders can have a number of different skills. And hopefully, ideally, a partnership would include leaders that sort of cover all of those bases. So that's just a little bit of information about the key elements. And again, thank you for sharing your positive experiences. Hopefully you saw some of those in the key elements here. Okay, so we have another poll here, and we have heard about what has been successful, or what you've seen that's been successful, and just talking about the key elements or thinking about those. We know that the world is not perfect, and there are challenges out there as we are working with other partners. So here's our next poll question. Where have you experienced the most challenges to forming and sustaining strong partnerships? And so we've got the poll open here. You don't have to just pick one. You can pick more than one. But where have you seen those challenges? Is it trust between partners? Is it leadership capacity? Is it shared values and interests? Joint resource development and learning? Or vision, structure, and accountability? So I'll let you all take a few minutes, and Shane, you can monitor. Shane, our divas will monitor the poll for us.
Yep, it's up.
And just in case any of you are also having problems, on your little tool bar that we introduced you to at the beginning, there's little boxes on the very top right-hand corner. One has a little line on the bottom of it. The other one has like a square. That's the box that you click on to either maximize or minimize your screen. So that and you need to minimize your screen in order to get into the poll if you're having problems.
Okay, we got about half of our folks have answered. Okay, we'll take about another 30 seconds. Okay, about 15 more seconds. And we'll go 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We got very even answers here. 40, the highest one is leadership capacity. And then 37% each was shared values and interests, and then joint resource development and learning. And then about 30% said trust between partners and vision, structure, and accountability.
Wow. That is really spread out very evenly. Interesting. Yeah, I think that we all probably have had experiences at different times, depending on the work that we're doing and who we're connected to. I know that I think probably the area that I have had some frustration and some challenges has been in the area of shared values and interests. It became really clear to me some years back when working with a group that I thought our interests were shared and obvious, and I had some very strong feelings about moving forward and what that looked like. And it took me a little while to figure out that I was the only one that had that. That my perspective was not everybody else's, and it's like, oh, no wonder I am so frustrated and this is not working. People do not have the same interests that I do, and when these things happen, we can really find ourselves in a place of, I like to think about it as collective folly for those of our John Ott fans out there, and just total disconnect and frustration. And then, you wonder why things aren't working. It's usually because there's some disconnect in one of these areas. And thank you for sharing what your experiences have been. And so what we're hoping to do is help you navigate and give you some tools so that as you're moving forward in the partnerships that you're connected to, or whether you're developing one, that you can start off with a good foundation. Okay, so I think, Jen, am I turning it over to you now again?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to welcome back Jen to talk about
thinking about essential partners to include. Partnerships bring traditional and non-traditional partners together. And so we're really coming together to plan and implement. When you're doing that, it's important to convene partners together on a regular basis in a safe and neutral space. And all this helps facilitate open and inclusive exchanges. So these are just some exhaustive lists. So there are others that may be missing. Just some partners to think of when you are first starting your partnership or thinking about your partnership that you're in now. Thinking about who's there and who's not represented. So government, this is your health and human services agencies, community-based organizations, maybe family strengthening organizations, or other youth and family service organizations. Philanthropy, this could also include service clubs, community champions and residents. So it's important to have the community represented. They provide their perspective from their lens, and you can really get some insight about their lived experience and also what it's like to go through different systems and what they're experiencing. Faith-based community is important to include. They often are located in the communities that you're serving, and they're also able to mobilize. A lot of them are able to mobilize volunteers, so it could be a great partnership to have with them. Universities, they can provide some insight on research, or they just look through a different lens and also can help you look at some of your data. For-profit business, really helping you leverage any other resources that they may have, being a part of. They're often a part of boards and different advisory groups. And a lot of businesses are looking for ways to help strengthen their employees and their families. And then healthcare and managed care, they're really involved. A lot of them are involved in prevention and really want to be involved in partnerships that strengthen that prevention and really help to look at the social determinants of health. So we know when you bring all these partners together, a lot of times it could be challenging because you all have different interests, you all have different goals. So this is just, oh, let me go back. Before we go into that, using the chat box, thinking about partnerships in your community, which essential partners are often missing from cross-sector partnerships in your community? You can just type your answer into the chat box. So thinking about this list and then thinking about partnerships that you see in your community or that you're involved in, which ones are often missing?
So Linda says family, extended family members, or medical services. Yeah. Dominique says faith-based. We don't always include faith-based organizations. Carrie and Tamara both thought for-profit businesses. Law enforcement, Jennifer put in law enforcement. Jennifer Diaz agrees with the faith-based, as does Penny. Renee agrees with that as well, and she also put in city council. So maybe local government. Consuelo says philanthropy or for-profit businesses. I was going to say too, Lori and Jen, that I feel like in the last couple of months, there's a lot of networks around that people were participating in, but didn't necessarily think of them first when it came to crisis management or you know,
Yeah.
turning your program around on a dime. One example of that is the Kings County Prevention Network. Super active group, you know, has a lot of stuff going on. They have a fabulous website with all kinds of things happening in Kings County. And they pretty much within a week or two of people working from home, they had created a weekly check-in call. So I try to sit on those calls as much as I can. Just a weekly, like 30-minute check-in call. How are people doing? You know, what's your urgent need? What gap do you see in the community? So I thought that was a really wonderful use of time to be sitting on those calls to hear what different agencies are looking for. So that's the Kings County Prevention Network. And then I was on a call earlier before this call of the Central Valley Community Foundation, which has had weekly calls as well for Fresno and Madera County, who kind of, it was the same idea, you know, get folks together to talk about where the gaps are, what are the highlights, what's the most pertinent thing happening in the community right now. So those kind of networks I think are really, really important.
Good example, Shane. I know that here in Stanislaus County, there's a faith-based community nonprofit, Love Our Neighbors, which stemmed from the Love Our Cities movement. And they have done a tremendous job of working together and creating like a resource bank and a place for people to donate and share and volunteer. That has been just a really, really great development. They were in existence before, but I think their support has been amplified right now in terms of the work that they're doing across the community.
A lot of times
that,
traditional partners. We have traditional partners, and we don't often include some of the non-traditional partners. I saw some comments about families. I think that's a big one. A lot of times we don't include parents in our partnerships when we are trying to strengthen families. So it's important to have them be a part of the movement as well. Shane, were you going to say something?
Yeah, sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt. Just Bertha put in the chat box that oftentimes there's skepticism about the private sector, but oftentimes they have you know, programs that can benefit communities too. So just looking into more private sector opportunities.
Right. Thank you. So moving forward, when you bring all these partners together, it's important to have guidelines, just so that everyone knows what's going on, and developing clear outcomes and objectives so that people know how things will be measured and how time will be spent. Understanding roles and responsibilities. Everyone needs to fully understand what's expected of them and what's expected of each partner. Also activating continuous quality improvement. So thinking about your plan and also thinking about the data that you collect, and being willing to look at the data and having it inform your next steps. I know, for example, in one of the partnerships that I'm involved here in Stanislaus County, our goals really were looking at ages and stages development for 0 to 5, our population, and also looking at their readiness for kindergarten. So pre-COVID, those were our goals, and now we've shifted looking at what the needs of our families are right now that we're serving, and so we are focusing on parent engagement and helping parents to build their capacity to, you know, work with their children at home and help them get ready. And so we had to shift a little bit. So it's important that we were using the data that we were getting and not being stuck with the goals and the objectives that we had set first, but being willing to kind of grow and change for what our families needed. Communication is very important. Becoming a learning community, learning from each other. Also having face-to-face meetings, talking about what's going on in their own agencies and what they're seeing with the families that they serve. And sharing resources. When you're bringing all of these people together, all these different entities and organizations, it's important that you share resources. Often other agencies can provide training, can talk about what they're doing to serve their families. I know we're seeing a lot of that here in our county with our family resource centers, so that not one family resource center is, you know, working with families in one way and another is working in a different way. We're really aligning our resources and sharing them so that we are working smarter for the families that we're serving, instead of all working on our own and working in silos.
Jen, Judy also shared with the idea of private business, that we want to make, it's also important for them to meet their outcomes. You know, they're trying to stay relevant and stay in business as well. And most of their employees are going to be parents. Healthy families make good employees, and where's the intersect for that? How can we help communicate what the intersect might be when we do reach out to those private sector partners?
Right, and just sharing resources as well. It helps every partner get what they need as well. So we have another poll. Which is the most important when forming cross-sector partnerships? Developing clear outcomes and objectives, understanding roles and responsibilities, free lunch is always a plus, activating continuous quality improvement, and communication.
I'm sure some of us have gone to a meeting here and there for free lunch before, but that's not the only reason.
Or if you go to the Sierra Learning Community, you get heavy snacks. You don't get lunch, but you get heavy snacks.
Love Barb and her heavy snacks.
We're thinking about this one. We've only got about 40% have voted. It's a hard choice. You can only choose one.
It is tough. I wish we had more options of choices that you could select in the poll, because we could have all of the above.
Go2 only gives you 5, so yeah. Okay, we'll do about 30 more seconds. Okay, about 10 more seconds. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Free lunch, 4%. Thanks for being honest.
It's always helpful to have free lunch. And really, when you're creating a partnership, it's really important to have all of these. I mean, free lunch is extra, but the 1, 2, 4, and 5, it's really, if you want to have an effective partnership, you really need to have clear outcomes. People need to understand their roles and what their expectations are of them. Always looking at your data and looking for ways to improve, and then open communication. So it really takes all of those.
And Jennifer Wood-Slayton says raffle prizes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Little incentives here and there, kind of always fun to throw in. Thanks for that, Jennifer.
Now I'm going to turn it over back to Lori to talk about the tools that are in the volume 3.
So, yeah, it wouldn't be a toolkit without actual tools. And so there are actual tools that you can pull out and use in support of the work that you are going to do. And so I'm going to just talk a little bit about each of them. There are 3 in the toolkit, and then we will spend some time digging into specifically the leadership self-assessment. So Jen, I think we can go to the next slide. Okay, so here you see a nice summary of all the tools. So the first tool is a partnership assessment inventory. And shout out to Judy Sherman and her strategies cohorts that worked on this early on in the original strategies work that really informed this partnership assessment inventory. And this is something that is helpful for a partnership or a collaborative or a network to do together. Ideally, that would be an activity that everyone could participate in. It is a really nice detailed inventory of strengths by category and some of the things that we talked about earlier related to partnerships. So it helps to identify where each partner's strengths lie, and then also identifies areas where there may be gaps in the partnership or areas that need to be strengthened. So you will find that inventory in this toolkit. And then another tool is the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding for building community resiliency. And Jen talked about before how important it is for people to understand their roles and their responsibilities. And perhaps those of you that are in the field, you know, if you have a contract to do a service, that's spelled out in a scope of work. But an MOU is the exact thing, can really help identify our mutual agreements and responsibilities. And the format that is provided here in this toolkit is really helpful. So you can just plug in any information specific to your partnership and use it. So it's a great foundational piece and something that if each member completes it, they have a great understanding of you know, exactly what they're committing to and what their purpose is. And then the third tool is the leadership self-assessment, which we will talk about in a moment. This assessment mirrors the category or ties to some of the key elements that we talked about earlier, but really is a helpful assessment for you to take personally to get an idea about you know, evolving leadership styles, where strengths are in a particular in a particular leadership capacity. It's helpful that it's a helpful orientation for everyone to have and to know each other's strengths in terms of what they can contribute on the path to community resilience building. All right, thank you, Jen. So, so this is our focus today. Here you can see, although albeit it might be a little small on your screen, but this is the tool that Shane referred to that is here in your materials for you to access in case you didn't have the chance to fill it out earlier. But this tool, again, is designed to be used individually. So for all of us, it's just our own reflection about our skills in each of these leadership categories. And I'm going to go over them in a minute. But first, but wait, there's more polls. Actually, this is the last poll. I completed the leadership self-assessment. Select one of the following. There's only 2 answers here. The first one is yep, check, done. or the second is, oops, nope, kind of forgot about it. So take a few minutes and pick your answer there.
Well, Lori,
oh,
we have
yes.
oopsies. We have lots of oopsies here.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. These students did not do their homework.
No judgment. No judgment.
No judgment. All right, so I'll give you about 10 more seconds.
Consuelo wrote in, yep, check. So
Yay.
kudos
Props.
to you, Consuelo.
So 3, 2, 1. That's all right.
You know, that's okay. We have some people who completed it and some who were not able to get to it. So yeah, well, and I think we kind of pulled a fast one on those of you. I don't know, Shane and Carrie can maybe answer this. I don't know how often people are asked to do homework, you know, in advance of this, but we figured we would give it a go.
Absolutely. It involves actually having to read the emails that are coming to you.
Yes, and we realize there's a lot of those coming. I think Jen, is the next slide the chat question? Oh, okay, there we go. Great. So you can take time now as we're going through. If you were able to take the self-assessment, you'll see that you could, I like the way that they did the scale on a scale of 1 to 5. You're looking at the categories and deciding whether you have great ability or you're very able in one of those areas, or if you're a 1, you're not so able. So that not a huge strength. And this is your own self-assessment, and so you can take some time as we're going through this just to kind of think through where you think you might land in these categories, even if you didn't get the chance to take it. And of course, you can always take it later as a part of the toolkit that you can access. So just a little bit about these leadership roles and responsibilities. So these are the ones that are identified in the toolkit. So you'll see this as you dig into it. There are lots of roles that leaders can play, and it may be that leaders play different roles depending on the networks and the collaboratives that they're connected to. So I might be more of a champion in this network, but on this collaborator, I'm a content expert, and that's how my skill is used. So you could certainly cross categories in these, and depending on what your partners need. So one of the first roles that we see there is visionary, right? These are the big thinkers, the bold thinkers, the big picture folks that can really cast that vision based on what partners are saying, what the conversation is bringing about in terms of community needs. So these are the folks that, you know, oftentimes hold that, you know, really very passionate view of what could be, of what's possible. So if you haven't taken the assessment, you know, where do you stand on that? Where are you as a visionary? Another role is trust builder. it's really important that it's a really important leadership capacity to have to make sure that everyone has opportunities for participation, everybody's opinion is valued, and leaders that have this skill are really adept at making sure that that happens at every meeting and for every person, so that it's not really a partnership if you have one person dominating the conversation or the decision making. So someone who's a trust builder is really tending to those conditions that build trust and making sure that everyone has an opportunity. It's really good to have these folks on your team, obviously, especially as partnerships are developing and forming. Another role is the entrepreneur. So someone who has the ability to work on behalf of the partnership to really help locate and secure resources, who's really adept and maybe has a lot of partnership social capital connection out in the community. It's good to have folks that have that entrepreneurial orientation as part of your leadership. Another role is that of champion. So, this is your person, this is a leader that is going to go to your board of supervisors, to your funders, to community members, to foundations in support of the work that you're doing collectively. And having a group of champions is a really important anchor as far as partnership leadership goes. Another key role and responsibility is that of a manager. So managers kind of take care of the nuts and bolts. So these are people that are oriented to detail and to operationally taking care of the work of the partnership. Oftentimes these are folks that are have an eye for data and understand the importance of utilizing that in terms of informing decisions and direction. Moving on down, the next that you'll see is strategists. So these are folks that are adept at strategic thinking and can think a little more broadly about impact in that way for the partnership. They're the ones who may have a lot of passion and energy about driving goals and mission and vision in support of shared outcomes that the group wants to have. Next is joint ownership. And we might think about that as a leader who shares power. So, it's clear that everybody in the partnership has a say in direction and that everybody's opinion matters. That if a leader operates out of a position of joint ownership, then everyone in the group really feels that sense of value and that that they're working together collectively as a whole versus one person dominating or one person having more of an opinion or say than anybody else in the group. So a leader that has that skill is really going to help ensure that that process happens effectively. And then finally, content expert. I think that's part of the beauty of a network or a partnership is that everybody's coming from a different area of expertise. And so a leader who's a content expert may have some specific knowledge about the community, have some insights based on their work with residents, parents, have some sense of what's alive, what's evolving in the community that the partnership should pay attention to, or a leader may have some expertise in a specific area like family strengthening, have an understanding about what's foundational to the support of healthy families and children in the community. And just thinking about this, and Jen and I had a conversation with Judy about this, although this is the third tool that's listed in the toolkit, I really think it's probably the most important. It's a really great place to start because it's important for you to know what you bring and what your strengths are as an individual. Because if you lack that and you're trying to support a whole partnership, again, there can be a little bit of a disconnect. So it's really important to know internally where you are, what you bring to the partnership party, so to speak, and to pay attention to areas that maybe areas of growth for you, but there could be other partners that are strong in that. So I think this to me would be the ideal place to start. So if I was going into a new partnership, I think the first thing that I would want to do is take a look at the self-assessment for everybody who is connected. So hopefully that gave you a little chance to reflect and think about where you see yourself in those categories. Because you guessed it, we would love to hear from you. We've got a couple of chat questions, so we'll just start with the first one because we really want to know whether you just thought about that now, reflected on that now, or whether you completed the survey earlier. Tell us a little bit about what emerged as your key strengths here. So this is kind of a two-part question. What were you strong in? What were you very able in? What were your strengths? And then what surprised you? Like maybe you didn't think about yourself as a visionary, but thinking about what a visionary does, you discovered that you're strong in that area. So tell us, we'll take a few minutes and open up the chat and see where we are in terms of our leadership strengths out there.
Lori, this is Shane. I guess I have a third question related to these two. So it's great for us to be self-reflective and kind of think about what our strengths are and where we could use where we could support other leadership capacities. I think, how do I ask my question? How do we, so if we're in a collaborative, we're going to have a group of people that have different strengths. How do we sort of honor the fact that people, like somebody might be a really great, manager and champion and entrepreneur, but they might not be super visionary.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we sort of you know what I'm saying? So how do we honor, or, I would say for myself, being able to do strategic thinking isn't always my strength. I've been trying to be conscious about improving it over the last couple of years, but it's still not, I don't think far enough ahead sometimes about things. So anyway, I'm just sort of rambling. I'm sorry. I was just curious, how do we help a team of people who are trying to accomplish something to sort of honor the fact that we're all going to have different strengths, and how not to get sort of frustrated by that or think that someone isn't working as hard as we are because they have a different strength. Does that make, am I making sense?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I think I'm certainly open to others out there who want to share their thoughts about that. Judy, especially because I know you're out there. I think that really comes in the partner assessment piece, which if we do this individually and we get an idea about where our strengths are, and then as we take the next step forward and take a look at the partnership survey, I think those become apparent, and that creates an awareness with the partnership about who has what strengths and how do we take advantage of those in the work that we're doing together, which I think also evolves in terms of the work defining the mission and the vision and the roles that everyone is playing. So I think it's sort of a collective process, starting with, starting with me individually, but then looking at me as a partner and the whole of the partnership. How do my skills fit in? And then, I think that the partnership, that's part of the learning that happens in the partnership, is how do we engage those skills and strengths of individuals in support of the whole partnership, is part of the work of the partnership. I think starting out, that's my initial thought. Unless, Jen, you have any reflections about that?
I don't. I think you kind of just start where you're at and see what other strengths that your other partners are bringing, and just remembering what your strengths are and reflecting. I think that's what's great about this assessment. It really help you, serves as a good reminder of what your strengths are and maybe what some of your partner's strengths may be.
All right.
Great, thank you. So we do have a couple of comments. Consuela says her key strength is being a champion. It's awesome. Araceli is also a champion, a trust builder, and a manager. Linda says her strength is strategy. She's able to think ahead, but weakness is a manager. So those skills are not as strong. And then thank you, Judy. Judy said it's important to acknowledge that each person is an essential piece of the puzzle. Yeah, following what Lori was saying. Great. Consuelo said she'd like to improve her entrepreneurial skills.
Great. Awesome.
And then Linda says sometimes teamwork is a challenge because a lot of structures aren't organized that well. So if the team's not organized, then it's hard to figure out where everybody's place is, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if and I'll happily use myself as an example. Like if you have a partnership and you've spent some time doing your internal assessment, and if 6 of the 7 of you are visionary and nobody's a manager or nobody's a strategic thinker, then it could be trouble getting some structure in place to get anything done, right? I'm happily admit that I definitely fall in that category of thinking that way. The details are not my strong suit. Jen and I were talking about that the other day. If you look at some of the agendas that we put together, it's very brief without a lot of detail, because in my head I'm thinking I know what I'm talking about, but other people may have no idea. So that's why this is really interesting and important, because the ideal would be to have a balance of folks that have all of these leadership capacities, and it doesn't always happen that way. And so the work would be then, gosh, we need those entrepreneurs to help us get resources, and we need those champions to help share our vision and our story and our work and what we're doing. So I think that's just my reflection, why I think this is really a great place to start before launching into partnership work.
And then Judy's added in that goals and outcomes are critical to the organization, as well as understanding the role that each partner plays. Like Lori is saying, too many visionaries don't get things done. Partners complement one another.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So then the second question, and we had some people responded to that, but the second Second thing we would love to know is tell us a little bit about those areas that you want to grow in. What of these that are in the assessment, what are some areas that you really want to improve in support of your leadership capacity? What are some of those areas that you're like, I'm cool, I'm visionary, but my management leadership, not so good? That would be me. that would be me.
I often use the example of I used to work at the YMCA, and we had a really, really wonderful young guy who ran our, we had a program called Youth in Government, which is a teen program for mock legislature. And so it was high school, I think it was freshmen, sophomore, and juniors. And he was just, I mean, he was the Pied Piper. They loved him. He knew everything about their lives. He was just, he had such good relationships with all of them. He had, I don't know, he just was amazing in his relationship ability with young people, and he had great relationships with their families and their parents as well. But he could not get his time card in on time for the life of him, and he couldn't, turn in his expenses on the date on the calendar that were given to him. So he had to have kind of a, an admin assistant to help him keep all that stuff together, because his skills, were somewhere else. And so that I always think about him when I think about this type of subject.
Ooh. Yeah, I can relate to that. Sort of. I wouldn't say I'm a Pied Piper, not by any sense, but.
Araceli says she wants to grow in being an entrepreneur and being visionary.
Nice. See a couple visionaries, it looks like, yeah?
Yeah, Linda, sorry, missed you, Linda. Wants to work on being a visionary as well.
Great. Well, thank you all for taking the time to really do some self-reflection, first of all, and to spend some time taking a look at your strengths and areas that you want to grow. And hopefully this is could be sort of a great starting place for you personally, and then you in your role in a partnership or a network or whoever you're connected to, just help you have a better understanding internally of what you can do in support of the collective group. And then let's see. Okay, just a couple of things. We're about to the end of our time together today, but want to talk about a couple of things. One is that if you are interested, and hopefully you are, hopefully this just kind of whet your appetite for learning more about the Building Community Resiliency Toolkit, there will be a webinar on June 4th that will go into much more detail about all of the volumes of the toolkit. And so you can go to the Strategies website. I think, oh, there you go. Shane has that posted in the chat box. You can go to the website and sign up for that, and then spend some time getting connected to all of the volumes. And I think that would be a great way to learn how one builds upon the other. So that, that's the ideal in terms of how the toolkit is designed to work. But as we said earlier, we'd hoped to pull this out today because we knew that we had a lot of folks out of there that were really interested in learning how to create community resilience and change. And this particular volume really addresses that. And as you see, it has a lot to do with how we show up as partners and understanding what we bring and understanding how the partnership can work together based on understanding our strengths collectively, individually, and by growing the relationships that we want to invest in. So anyway, I would encourage you to sign up for that webinar, and then you can learn a lot more about the entire toolkit. And those are all free, by the way, so there's no cost. You can download the toolkit. It's a beautiful piece of work that you'll definitely want to have as a resource in the work that you're doing. So I encourage you to do that. And as Carrie said before, there are still lots of training opportunities that you can find on the Strategies website. And I do want to talk, I just want to share a little bit of information about strategies moving forward. As you know, Jen and I have been facilitating learning communities for the last couple of years. We have had learning communities in different areas of the state, in Southern California, in the Sierra region, Northern California, Sacramento area, Bay Area. So we've all been, over the last several years, really working in support of learning and connection throughout our regions. And so on behalf of Strategies. And so moving forward in the new fiscal year, the focus of Strategies is going to change a little bit. Some of you know that Strategies has done obviously a lot of fantastic training. They have provided consultation to agencies, to counties, to networks. And so moving forward, the work of Strategies is really going to be focused on consultation. And that will, beginning July 1st, that will be their primary focus. And that will really be in connection with some of the work that all of the counties in the state are or will be doing in terms of developing their prevention plans. And so Strategies won't be offering training as they do now, sadly. I know that speaking for myself, that's something I will miss because I value all the training that I've been able to participate in and have a lot of appreciation for the work that they've done. But the training will be facilitated by the Chadwick Center at Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego. So I believe if you are connected to Strategies right now, you will be getting some information about that. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but we just wanted to share that with you. And then sadly, huge bummer, we won't be having learning communities like we do either right now, since the focus has shifted to consultation on prevention networks in counties. Learning communities as we know them, as we're doing them right now, this will be our final learning community. It's possible that learning communities could evolve as part of the work that's happening in counties, and we certainly hope that's the case. But we just wanted to let you know that moving forward, this will be our last one. So we want to make sure that you, again, revisit the Strategies YouTube channel so you can take advantage of looking at all the prior learning communities if you want to check those out. There's fantastic learning that has happened certainly throughout our region that we have been so privileged to be a part of, and we've been so happy to be connected to all of our partners. Really want to thank folks who have helped us, whether they've served as hosts or people that we've met along the way that have supported our work. Want to shout out to our folks that have been our remote host hubs. Monica in Merced. Monica's been with us the whole time. She signed up early on and just really appreciate her being so willing to host her group in Merced County at the Office of Education there. So thank you, Monica. Angelita in Fresno, I don't think is on the call. I don't know if any of her staff are today, but Comprehensive Youth Services in Fresno was another fantastic champion remote host for us. Our partners in Kern County through the Children's Network and the Office of Education, also terrific partners who created space as remote hub hosts for us for our learning community events. So we thank you all for coming along on the journey with us, and I hope that you have found the learning inspiring, especially because we have really been over the last couple of years focused on resiliency, and we hope that we've given you a lot of tools to go out and to use in the work that you're doing in support of healthy children and families. Want to thank also Judy Sherman for being our learning community guru, our support. That has helped Jen and I a lot. To Lita for giving us the opportunity to do this, and hopefully not regretting it. And also to our technology divas who have their boas on, who made all of the technology possible, which Jen and I really had some concerns about in the beginning. And they made it happen flawlessly. So we have a lot to be thankful for. And because of this collective effort, we've been able to spend time with you all and create opportunity for learning to happen across all these areas of our Valley community and beyond. With our partners today, they're in other areas. Jen, any remarks from you or Shane or Carrie?
I just wanted to thank everyone just for coming along this journey with us. It's been a lot of fun, and we've met a lot of great people who are doing great things to serve the families in their communities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to ditto that. You know, I grew up in Bakersfield, so the Valley always has a very close, you know, I have lots of family roots in the Valley for sure, and so I have just really loved being the rep for the Central Valley the last 4 years, and you know, I've missed you all not being on the road the past couple of months, although it's been nice to be able to connect via computer. But yeah, just I miss y'all already. So thank you. And what Jen said about the hardworking people in the Valley, I just, you know.
Yeah. When people ask me what do I like most about my job, it's this. It's having the opportunity to have met all of you across the state and see your passion for what you do. The work that you do for children and families is absolutely amazing. So thank you for letting me be a part of this journey with you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, everyone. And yes, just, you know, as a reminder, you can access all of this if you want to go back, anything you want to revisit. Encourage you to jump on and sign up for the webinar on June 4th to learn more. And we will look forward to seeing you virtually or maybe someday in person. Otherwise, our paths will cross. And we just appreciate you taking your valuable time out of your day to be with us this morning. So thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Yeah, hearts to you all. I don't do that really well, but it's supposed to look like a heart, does it? Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks for all the comments too. I see those coming in. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you. So let's stop recording. Shane, do you want me to click on that, or do you got that?
Can we still read the comments if we stop recording?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.